Hello and welcome to Indus News. Live from Islamabad, I'm Naila Shuja and these are the headlines. Pakistan's Foreign Minister Shah Mehmood Qureshi says warring sides should work to reduce the violence leading to a ceasefire in Afghanistan. Speaking to the media after meeting a Taliban delegation in Islamabad, Qureshi said the Taliban are fully inclined towards peace. He went on to say that the next round of peace talks will be held on the 5th of January, for which the venue is yet to be decided. Britain's Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab says his country is keeping a close eye on the ongoing farmers' protest in India. Speaking to the media in Delhi, Raab said the farm laws in India are an internal matter, but the protests are a part of British politics too because of the Indian diaspora in the United Kingdom. Tens of thousands of farmers have been protesting for the last 21 days against the controversial laws they say favor big corporates. Diplomats from Iran and major powers have met online to discuss the faltering nuclear deal, despite conciliatory signals from the United States President-elect Joe Biden. The consultations are meant to prepare upcoming talks among foreign ministers from the United Kingdom, France, Germany, Russia, China, and Iran. The 2015 deal has disintegrated steadily since the United States President Donald Trump withdrew from it in 2018 and imposed crippling sanctions on Iran. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan says United States sanctions over the Russian arms purchase are an attack against its sovereignty. In a televised address, he said the sanctions will fail to deter the efforts of the Turkish defense industry. Pakistan has recorded its highest daily death toll in months with 105 fatalities and over 2,700 infections overnight. The country's death toll has topped 9,000, while its infections tally has surged over 445,000. In the United States, over 303,000 people have died from the disease and more than 16.7 million have contracted the virus so far. India's death tally has topped 143,000, with the country's caseload approaching 10 million. Globally, the virus has claimed over 1.6 million lives and infected over 73 million. And in football, Real Madrid beat Atletico Bilbao 3-1 to move level on points at the top of the La Liga. Karim Benzema scored twice to win the game for Real Sociedad, Atletico Madrid, and Real Madrid are all tied at the top of the Spanish league with 26 points. For more news and details, stay tuned. We'll be right back after a short break. Welcome back. Pakistan's Foreign Minister Shah Mehmood Qureshi says warring sides should work to reduce the violence leading to a ceasefire in Afghanistan. Speaking to the media after a meeting with the Taliban delegation in Islamabad, Qureshi said the Taliban are fully inclined towards peace. He asserted that a political settlement is the only way forward. The foreign minister announced that the next round of peace talks will be held on the 5th of January, for which the venue is yet to be decided. The international community, he said, should play its role on the ongoing peace process for its success. He reiterated that the Taliban, just like the rest of the world, acknowledge Pakistan's efforts for peace in the war-torn country. Led by Mullah Baradar Akhund, said the Taliban delegation is on the 3-day visit to Pakistan. The delegation will also call on Prime Minister Imran Khan. For more on this, we're joined by Yasa Naqvi, our correspondent from Islamabad. Welcome to Indus. Yasa, as you know, a high-level Taliban called on Pakistan's Foreign Minister Shah Mehmood Qureshi in Islamabad. Can you tell us more about today's developments?
Well, the delegation called on the foreign minister. They are here for 3 days. The visit is going to conclude on 18th of December. And during this time, the Taliban delegation from their political office in Doha, they're going to call on and have meetings with the political leadership and military leadership in Pakistan. Today, the meeting was held with the foreign minister, Shah Qureshi, and tomorrow the delegation is going to call on Prime Minister Imran Khan. They're going to have several other meetings as well. During today's meeting, what has come out so far officially from the Foreign Office of Pakistan, it was stated that Pakistan shared its perspective for peace, prosperity, and stability in Afghanistan. That how Pakistan has been facilitating the talks between different warring factors, how Pakistan played a role of a facilitator to bring peace to this war-torn country. Pakistan also discussed during the meeting, it was also discussed that how Pakistan is looking at the future of Afghanistan and cooperation. It was clearly stated that whatever decision is taken by Afghan stakeholders during the intra-Afghan negotiations, that will be acceptable to Pakistan. For peace and prosperity in Pakistan is directly linked in Afghanistan is directly in Pakistan is directly linked with peace and prosperity in Afghanistan. The ways and means to enhance future cooperation was also discussed, and the return of Afghan refugees, millions of them who are residing inside Pakistan, and Pakistan has been hosting these Afghan refugees for decades now. The Taliban delegation, it was stated that the Taliban delegation, they appreciated Pakistan's facilitative role in the intra-Afghan, for the holding of intra-Afghan negotiations. And after the meeting was over, Foreign Minister Shah Qureshi, he shared his views about the meeting, and he said that it's Pakistan welcomes the three major steps that have been taken. The first one was the deal that was signed, the Doha agreement that was signed on 29th of February. Then in September, it was decided that the stakeholders, they're going to sit on table, and now they have finally decided that the talks are going to start on 5th of January, although the venue has not been decided, but it's clear that they are heading towards negotiations and finalizing a deal to bring peace to Afghanistan.
Now, Mr. Naqvi, how significant is this visit amid the ongoing peace process?
This is the third visit. If you see that how Pakistan has been trying to facilitate this process, this is the third visit by the Taliban delegation in about one and a half years. They visited for the first time in 2019, late 2019. Then they visited when there was a bottleneck which was not letting the peace process go forward. Pakistan tried to resolve that, tried to use its influence, and then later we have seen that during this year, this is the second visit by the Taliban delegation. And it is not just the Taliban that Pakistan is interacting with. Pakistan invited Bulletin, Pakistan invited Bolivia, a delegation from Afghanistan, and also Dr. Abdullah, he also recently visited Pakistan. And similarly, Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan, he paid an official visit to Afghanistan. He also invited Afghan President Ashraf Ghani to visit Pakistan. So Pakistan is, like we see the trajectory and how things are moving. Pakistan is not just interacting with one side or two sides from all the stakeholders. Pakistan has been interacting with all the stakeholders in Afghanistan, and Pakistan has stated clearly that whatever solution is reached, or whatever consensus is reached by the stakeholders in Afghanistan, that will be acceptable. But one thing that Pakistan has been saying since the beginning of this process, and even before the agreement was reached, that all the stakeholders in Afghanistan, they must be aware of, and the international stakeholders in Afghanistan must be aware of the role of spoilers, the negative role that is possible from certain entities, certain countries, and certain individuals who do not wish to see peace return to Afghanistan.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Naqvi, for updating us on the recent developments regarding the Afghan peace process. Moving on. Meanwhile, 14 Afghan security force members have been killed and 4 others wounded in Taliban attacks in northern Baghlan province. Officials say that the Taliban attacked 2 security checkposts in the Puli Kumiri city. The Taliban spokesperson confirmed the raid, saying 3 commanders were among those killed. Zabiullah Mujahid said that the checkposts fired mortar shells on the civilians. He said 2 tanks were also destroyed, while weapons and ammunition were seized. Britain's Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab says his country is keeping a close eye on the ongoing farmers' protest in India. Speaking to the media in Delhi, Raab said the farmer laws in India are an internal matter, but the protests are a part of British politics too, because of the Indian diaspora in the United Kingdom. Earlier, British MPs of Indian origin had raised the issue of farmers' protest in the United Kingdom Parliament. Tens of thousands of farmers have been protesting for the last 21 days against the controversial laws they say favor big corporates. But the government insists the reforms will benefit the farmers, allowing them to market their produce and boost production through private investment. Several rounds of talks to achieve a breakthrough have remained unsuccessful. Diplomats from Iran and major powers have met online to discuss the faltering nuclear deal despite conciliatory signals from the United States President-elect Joe Biden. The consultations are meant to prepare upcoming talks among foreign ministers from the United Kingdom, France, Germany, Russia, China, and Iran. More in this report.
The 2015 Iran nuclear deal, also known as the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, has disintegrated steadily since U.S. President Donald Trump withdrew from it in 2018 and imposed crippling sanctions on Iran. 1 year later, Iran started abandoning key provisions of the deal. Earlier this month, Iran's President Hassan Rouhani said the nuclear deal could be restored without negotiations. Wednesday talks are also overshadowed by the assassination of a top Iranian nuclear scientist in late November. Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif has blamed Israel, which is opposed to the nuclear deal. Following the killing of Mohsen Fakhrizadeh, Iranian parliamentarians passed a law to block UN inspections of nuclear sites. Iran's execution of a journalist last week has further soured the diplomatic atmosphere. According to the UN atomic watchdog, Iran currently has more enriched uranium than allowed under the agreement that was reached in 2015. The nuclear deal is meant to prevent Iran from amassing uranium that could be used for nuclear weapons. In return, the major powers promised to end Iran's economic isolation by lifting sanctions.
Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan says United States sanctions over the Russian S-400 systems are an open attack against its sovereignty. In a televised address, he said the sanctions will fail to deter the efforts of Ankara's defense industry. Erdogan also vowed to work twice as hard to make sure the defense industry is fully independent. The Turkish president said the sanctions showed a hostile stance by Washington against its fellow NATO ally. On Monday, the United States imposed sanctions on Turkey's Presidency of Defense Industries and its chief, Ismail Demir. Ankara's foreign ministry condemned the sanctions as a grave mistake and urged Washington to revise its decision. In a statement, Pakistan's Foreign Office expressed concern over the imposition of unilateral measures against Turkey. It hailed Turkey's role in international peace and stability. The International Rescue Committee warns that Yemen is at most risk of humanitarian disaster in 2021. Yemen, in a statement, IRC said conflict, widespread hunger, and collapsing aid mechanisms can worsen the situation. IRC officials say the world has turned its back on Yemen as it faces an unprecedented threat. The aid agency said Yemen has never before faced so many simultaneous challenges. A UN report says that 80% of Yemen's 30 million population needs some form of aid or protection. The humanitarian crisis watch list for 2021 includes Afghanistan, Syria, Ethiopia, Nigeria, Venezuela, and Mozambique. In northwestern Nigeria, 2 students have been killed in an operation to rescue schoolboys kidnapped by Boko Haram militants. Katsina State Governor Aminu Masari says at least 17 pupils have been rescued. He said the majority of the kidnapped students are in the Zamfara forest in the neighboring province. The governor added that the state has deployed all resources and efforts are underway to save them. Meanwhile, the United States has condemned the incident. The spokesperson for the State Department said Washington is investigating the Boko Haram's claim of the responsibility. More than 300 students were kidnapped by Boko Haram terrorists from a boarding school in Kangaroos town. In the French city of Nantes, hundreds of people have clashed with the police during a demonstration against the contentious security law. Police used tear gas and water cannons to disperse the demonstrators. The country has been hit by a wave of street protests after the government introduced a security bill in parliament. It set out to surveillance tools and restrict rights on circulating images of police officers in the media and online. Protesters have slammed the law as repressive and aimed at curbing freedom of speech and expression.
I'm
here to fight for everyone's freedoms because I fear we're in a full authoritarian drift now with the government's measures and this repressive law, which has no other use than harming freedom and certainly does not guarantee anybody's freedom.
French President Emmanuel Macron's ruling party has pledged to rewrite the article, but protesters demand complete scrapping of the law. Moving on, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen has said that a narrow path has opened up for Britain and the EU to strike a trade deal. Speaking in the EU Parliament, she said the next few days are going to be decisive. Von der Leyen said that the bloc is working tirelessly to reach an agreement, but she said talks over fishing rights are still very difficult. Meanwhile, German Chancellor Angela Merkel said that there has been some progress, but no breakthrough in the post-Brexit talks. Some reluctant world leaders have congratulated U.S. President-elect Joe Biden on his win. The long-delayed acknowledgement comes after the Electoral College formalized Biden's win. In a letter to Biden, Mexico President López Obrador praised his triumph, recognizing his position in favor of migrants. Acknowledging the loss of Trump, a Brazilian president also extended his best wishes to Biden. Key Trump ally and state majority leader Mitch McConnell also joined several Republicans in acknowledging Biden as president-elect. Meanwhile, January Senate runoffs will decide who controls 100-member House in the U.S. Congress. It's now time for a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. The United States has recorded more than 303,000 deaths from the coronavirus and 16.7 million cases. In India, the virus has claimed 144,000 lives and infected almost 10 million people. Globally, there are more than 1.6 million deaths and 73 million cases. More about the coronavirus in this report.
Even though coronavirus vaccines are being rolled out, 1 in 4 people globally may not get them until 2022. Researchers say rich countries with less than 15% of the global population have reserved 51% of supplies. In the U.S., vaccines have been delivered in all 50 states, and Moderna's candidate is set for regulatory authorization this week. Canada will receive tens of thousands of doses of Moderna's vaccine by the end of the year. Meanwhile, Argentina says the U.S. pharmaceutical giant Pfizer brought up unacceptable conditions during vaccine negotiations.
We were asked for a law that would provide immunity. The law was in Congress, and it then later appeared in the negotiations with Pfizer as well. It was never from residents, but Pfizer said it was with us. It said that the previous law wasn't sufficient enough, so there would have to be a new law, and also that the contract was not to be signed by me, but the president himself. Truthfully, they are somewhat unacceptable conditions.
Over in Europe, shopkeepers in the Netherlands are struggling to cope with the new lockdown during the busiest time of the year. In France, a second national lockdown in Paris has now been transformed into a curfew after new cases were down. London has moved into the highest tier of restrictions to control rising infection rates. Meanwhile, scientists are trying to find out if the rapid spread of a new variant in southern England is linked to key mutations detected in the strain.
So people must have looked at this N501Y mutation and looked at where the mutation has occurred and tried to predict how much that would have changed the protein shape. And it sounds like they figured out that, in fact, it won't change it that much. So the vaccine-induced antibodies to the S protein should still bind to it.
South Korea has hit another record of daily infections with over 1,070 cases. And Japan's Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga has drawn criticism for joining end-of-the-year social gatherings after imploring residents to avoid them. While Australia has reported its first local coronavirus case in nearly 2 weeks after an airport worker tested positive.
Pakistan has recorded its highest daily death toll in months with 105 fatalities overnight. The health ministry says the country's death toll has climbed to 9,010. The ministry reported 2,731 new infections in the past 24 hours. It said currently there are more than 48,000 active COVID-19 cases in the country. Out of over 445,000 countrywide cases, more than 388,000 people have recovered. The ministry said over 198,000 cases have been detected in the province of Sindh, while the Punjab has reported 128,000 cases. Pakistan is observing the 6th anniversary of the horrific attack on the Army Public School in Peshawar. On this day in 2014, 132 children and 17 staff members lost their lives in a blatant act of terrorism. More in this report.
In Pakistan, wounds of the Peshawar school attack reopen each winter. It was the world's 4th deadliest school massacre. Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, a proscribed group, claimed responsibility for the assault. Recalling the horrific incident, the country's top leadership paid homage to the innocent victims. Addressing an event in Peshawar, Prime Minister Imran Khan said the APS incident has united the entire nation to defeat terrorism. He said the nation is still aggrieved at the incident. The Speaker of National Assembly, Asad Kasser, said no religion allows killing humanity. He said the sacrifices of martyrs did not go wasted. Terrorism has been rooted out of Pakistan. After the attack, that Pakistan's parliament unanimously passed the National Action Plan, spelling out specifics to counter terrorism in the country. A number of activities are being held across the country today to remember the sacrifices of the innocent children.
Today marks the 49th anniversary of the fall of Dhaka. Indian-sponsored terrorists inside East Pakistan breached international borders and waged an unwarranted war to dismember Pakistan.
December 16th, 1971 marks the day when India's jingoism and expansionism led to the dismemberment of Pakistan's eastern wing and the creation of Bangladesh. India and its spying agency RAW helped cross-border infiltration of its spies and troops in violation of international law and provided safe havens to terrorists against Pakistan. Several books have been written about India's clandestine intervention in Bangladesh since its inception. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, on his last visit to Bangladesh, confessed to all these war crimes, saying New Delhi was proud of its actions that led to the fall of East Pakistan. India's habit of conspiring and constantly meddling across the border knows no bounds, as is evidenced by its current border standoff with China at Ladakh, with Pakistan at the illegally annexed Indian-occupied Kashmir, and even with Nepal over the border issues.
Spain's Queen Letizia has helped deliver 11 tons of aid to hurricane-ravaged Honduras. The European royal seeks to raise awareness of the Central American country's devastation after 2 deadly hurricanes. Queen Letizia met with children and families, including some who lost their homes in the hurricanes. She also called on President Juan Orlando Hernandez. Nearly half of the Honduran population, comprising of 4.5 million people, has been impacted by the hurricanes and their aftermath. More than 85,000 homes were damaged by the twin storms, with 6,000 destroyed.
This is a very significant donation. It really makes us feel that we are not alone, that we have friendly countries like Spain who continue to support us. During these difficult times for the Honduran people, we are here touring this area with them and taking the donations.
A powerful storm Yasa is barreling down on Fiji with hurricane-force winds. The U.S. Oceanic and Atmospheric Organization said the tropical cyclone has reached Category 5 level. It said sustaining the winds of up to 260 kilometers per hour. Cyclone was at the Category 1 only 24 hours ago. It said the storm will also bring over 250 millimeters of rainfall, which can trigger flooding and landslides. Officials have warned that the potential effect of the storm can be catastrophic for the region. Meanwhile, Fiji's president had urged the communities to take the steps to keep in their homes and communities safe. In Bolivia, scientists have announced the discovery of 20 new species in the Bolivian Andes, as well as the sightings of plants and animals not seen for decades. More in this report.
Located near the Bolivian capital of La Paz, Zongo Valley is known as the heart of the region. High up steep, rugged mountains are an array of well-preserved habitats which are thriving with lush biodiversity. It was among the cloud forest that researchers discovered 20 species new to science, including a frog that may be the smallest in the Andes, a new venomous pit viper, 4 butterflies, and 4 orchid species.
So the findings of our RAP expedition to the Zongo Valley in Bolivia were really extraordinary. We were quite surprised at the number of species that we found that were new to science, as well as the rediscovered species. And these findings are of enormous importance to Bolivia and to the world.
They also found plants and animals not seen for decades, including the devil-eyed frog that was last seen 20 years ago. Also rediscovered was the Alizata verticillata, a small flowering tree, after 127 years.
As scientists trained in this and with experience doing these types of expeditions, especially when we visit places like this in the Andes, we expect to find a certain number of new species, perhaps not as many vertebrates like the snakes and frog that we found that were new. But even more exciting for many of us was the rediscovery of 4 species that were believed to be extinct.
The expedition was led by a non-profit environmental group and the government of the capital city of La Paz. It included 17 scientists who went to the Chavi Grande, a locality near La Paz.
In Seoul, a cat cafe allows visitors to cuddle up with around 130 feline friends. Some dressed up as Santa costumes are ready to wish people a meowy catmas. Details in this report.
Park Seo-young opened the Cat Garden Cafe in 2016 to rescue abandoned cats, a situation which has worsened during the pandemic. Officials say the number of abandoned pets increased by 3.7% in the first half of 2020 as compared to last year.
With many people staying at home, more people are adopting cats. But at the same time, more people abandon pets as the coronavirus situation worsens. Whenever I hear about such news, it really hurts me.
The cafe itself was hit by the coronavirus. It used to have about 100 visitors a day, but that has recently dropped by about a third. But visitors say it is still a source of visual gratification with some of the cats donning Santa outfits. They say the emotional respite from cuddling the feline furballs is a much-needed escape from coronavirus anxiety.
Especially this year, it is hard to feel the festive atmosphere, but it was great to see cute cats wearing Santa suits and feel like Christmas is nearing.
Park says a special feast is on the cards for the feline Santas over the festive period, a chicken breast party.
With catwalks closed because of the coronavirus pandemic, French luxury fashion house Yves Saint Laurent is taking social distancing in its stride. Find out how in this report.
There were no spectators, no influencers, and no fashionistas at Saint Laurent presentation of its 2021 Women's Summer Collection. Only drone footage of models walking on the crest of a tall dune in the middle of a honey-colored desert. It revealed its latest collection designed by Anthony Vaccarello with a 10-minute fashion film called I Wish You Were Here. Models walked along a ridge of fire burning on the dune's crest, the flames reflected in the evening sparkle, gold embroidery, and Claude Leland designed jewelry. Looks included sheer halter dresses, a gold and black brocade jacket, and a cycling shorts with a black suit. Many models sported Yves Saint Laurent branded mini belt bags to match. As night fell over the desert, Saint Laurent declined to reveal the location, only saying it was a desert in the north. Saint Laurent said the film was an invitation for escapism without specifying from what. From COVID-19 presumably, and from the year 2020.
A study has revealed that kangaroos are able to intentionally communicate with humans and ask for help. This report has more.
As if there wasn't already enough about kangaroos that fascinates, researchers have now revealed that the Aussie signature animal can communicate with humans. This research challenges the notion that only domesticated animals use their gaze to convey meaning.
Much to our surprise, they did show the gazing behavior and the gaze alternations that are usually associated with domestic animals. So it shows that this effect of trying to deliberately communicate with a human is not really restricted to the usual domestic species that we know. And it was fantastic to find that this actually occurs in kangaroos.
The study involved 11 kangaroos that lived in captivity but had not been tamed. 10 of them used their gaze to point at objects, while 9 gazed alternatively between humans and objects as if asking for help.
It's time for a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. China has called on Australia to take Beijing's concerns seriously over trade disputes. In a daily briefing, a foreign ministry spokesman said Australia must take concrete actions to correct its discriminatory actions against the Chinese firms. This came after Australia said it will launch a formal appeal to the World Trade Organization for review of China's tariffs on Australian barley. Talking to reporters, the Australian Trade Minister acknowledged the appeal may take years to be resolved, but the Chinese Foreign Ministry warned that Australia should reconsider its decision.
What I want to stress is that Australian government should take China's concern seriously and take concrete action to correct its discriminatory action against Chinese companies.
Wall Street stocks have traded higher at open as the investors are looking towards a bumper coronavirus stimulus package. Markets have also extended gains as the Federal Reserve's expected to keep leading rates at near zero. The indices of S&P 500 and NASDAQ Composite have traded marginally higher. The Dow Jones Index average has traded over 1% up. Separately, Bitcoin has smashed through $20,000 for the first time on Wednesday, its highest ever. The cryptocurrency has gained more than 170% this year, lifted by demand from investors. In football, Real Madrid beat Atletico Bilbao 3-1 to move level on points at the top of the La Liga table. Karim Benzema scored twice to win the game for Real. Toni Kroos put Real ahead with the first-time low dive towards the end of the first half. Andre Capa equalizer in the 52nd minute was followed by Benzema heading the champions back into the lead in the 74th minute. He then killed the game off by scoring his second, securing Real's fourth win in a row in all competitions. Real Sociedad, Atletico Madrid and Real Madrid are all tied at the top of the Spanish league with 26 points. And in the Bundesliga, Borussia Dortmund have beat Werder Bremen 2-1 to secure their first win in 4 league games. The wing moves Dortmund to 4th place in the German league with 22 points. Rafael Guerrero's 12th minute volley put the visiting Dortmund in the lead. Vida's Kevin Mohlwald soon equalized with a powerful shot in the 28th minute to fizzle out the euphoria. Vida's goalkeeper Yuri Pavlenka conceded a penalty in the 78th minute after crashing into Manuel Akanji. Pavlenka blocked Marco Reus's spot kick but was beaten by Dortmund skipper on the rebound. In the English Premier League, West Bromwich Albion have sacked manager Slaven Bilic after a poor start to the season. They have won only once in the 13 games so far in the current season. Bilic is the first top-flight manager in England to be sacked this season. His team's sole victory came against bottom side Sheffield United, while they lost 8 times. West Brom's next game is a West Midlands derby against Aston Villa on Sunday. Doha has won the hosting rights for the 2030 Asian Games, while Riyadh will host the 2034 edition. The president of the Olympic Council of Asia, Sheikh Ahmed Al Fahad Al Sabah, announced the winner after the body's meeting. Doha hosted the 2006 Asian Games, bringing together more than 10,000 athletes for a 2-week gathering. The Qatari capital also is set to host the FIFA 2022 Football World Cup. For Saudi Arabia, it will be the first time to organize an OCA multi-sports event. It's now time to take a look at the weather around the world. For the latest news updates, you can follow us on our social media at indus.news.